I didn't get a chance to speak with you yesterday about the revelations that came out in Michael Schmidt's book. Revelations that, of course, so many people in Washington have been whispering about. In fact, Michael Wolff's book. In fact, I had somebody say last night, what's the big news about Wolff's new book? It's what everybody in Washington has been writing or saying for the past year. They said, well, Wolff is just more dramatic in his writing. Be that as it may, it caused a firestorm. And I'm just wondering, with North Korea and with Iran and with news coming out of Pakistan that could be unsettling, what's your take on a new explosive set of revelations coming out talking about the dysfunction in the Trump White House when there is so much on the line across the globe this morning?
Joe, I can give you a simple anecdote to explain what it has been like the last couple days. On Thursday afternoon, when the revelations about the Wolff book and Trump's amazing response to it came out, I was on my way to a major embassy to talk about precisely the problems that you're mentioning. What's happening in North Korea, what's happening in Iran. And I found that the diplomat that I'd gone to see hadn't been able to spend any time the whole afternoon looking at those big issues because he was preoccupied reading into the details of the Wolff revelations. It was a sense as if there'd been an implosion at the center of this Trump team, this governing team led by, we thought, the insurgency that Bannon represented. So I think the whole of Washington, embassies, federal government agencies, cabinet positions took a deep breath Wednesday afternoon and thought, our world is different now, trying to sort out exactly what the implications are. But it was even in a capital that you'd think at this point people couldn't be surprised by something that comes out of a White House feud. This just stopped the clock for a couple hours.
And I don't want to overstate it, but in talking to leaders across the world, I can just say what Meek and I hear, and from diplomats and from others, just as we are suspended in time. The United States, the leader of the free world, not only in hard power but in soft power, just right now, things are frozen. And these world leaders are not looking to the United States of America to lead over the next three and a half years.
Joe, again, we had a perfect example this week. The United States, President Trump, I think, not unreasonably, said to our European allies, let's have a common statement on what's happening in Iran. Iranian people are in the streets calling for freedom, and shouldn't we say something jointly to hold the Iranian regime responsible? It wasn't a crazy request, but the Europeans didn't want to do it, and they didn't want to do it because they've gotten so gun-shy, so burned by these Trump statements that are so inflammatory. My button is bigger than yours. So they backed away. It was the biggest breach, really, between the U.S. and its allies since Trump came into office in terms of specific policies. So that's one small sign that this is taking its toll.
But an important sign, and we want to talk about your Iran column in a few minutes. Really remarkable what's happening there. It happened in 2009. We have it again in 2017, and it looks like the United States may not be able to have a leading role in at least sending a strong message to the Iranian people right now. Let's go to the Hill and Casey Hunt. Reaction yesterday from everything that happened.
Well, Joe, I think you saw from some Republican leaders barely contained glee over Steve Bannon's basic self-immolation. I mean, he essentially took himself off the playing field, and I think that was something that Republican leaders on the Hill, while they may not have been excited publicly, privately, I certainly heard from a lot of them and aides that this is something that is a positive development they felt for Hill Republicans. But, you know, I think David David Ignatius's point is well taken. There's a bookstore in D.C. It stays open for 24 hours. They put the Michael Wolff book on sale at midnight because of such intense demand in town to kind of get a chance to actually read through all of these revelations for themselves. This is, in many ways, though, not a surprise. I mean, I think leaders on Capitol Hill have been privy to pieces of this as they have traveled up and down Pennsylvania Avenue throughout the course of doing their work. And I think it's driving a lot of the concern about exactly what the future of not just the party is, but the country.
Yeah, what the future of the party is, what the future of the country is. And I've got to say, for Republican leaders and others who see this as a positive development, a book where all of Donald Trump's cabinet members, or most of them, deride him, mock him, ridicule him, where others in the White House more than suggest he's not fit to be president of the United States, that he's not temperamentally capable of being president of the United States, that he's not mentally strong enough to be president of the United States. If Mitch McConnell sees that as a good day, and he does, then that says some very disturbing things about Mitch McConnell and exactly how low the bar has gone on Capitol Hill. Let's bring in Michael Schmidt. Michael, breaking news last night, of course, coming from you. And why don't you jump in on Donald Trump desperately trying to get control of a Russia investigation that he saw sort of slipping out of his hands, and dreaming of having another Roy Cohn-like figure to go around Washington, D.C. and brutalize an independent FBI.
What we learned about is how the president views his attorney general. He views his attorney general as a protector, as someone there to be a buffer and a safeguard. He had his White House counsel, his top lawyer, go to the attorney general in March and say, look, don't recuse yourself from the Russia investigation. There's no reason to do that. And then after the president found out that he was going to recuse, he got extremely angry. And he said, you know, Barack Obama had Eric Holder. JFK had RFK. Where's my Roy Cohn? Referring to his longtime personal lawyer and saying, where is this person to protect me? And that, for us, really provided a window into how he viewed the top law enforcement position, the top person underneath him, at a time that the Russia investigation was accelerating.
Well, Michael, not just that, but how he viewed lawyers as basically hitmen of sorts. I mean, Roy Cohn, again, a man who disgraced himself time and time again when he was alive, who disgraced himself during the McCarthy hearings, who disgraced himself through the 60s and the 70s, who disgraced himself so much that he was